I'm taking you out of the scrub below, sparking plateaus where the cold wind blows. One step higher every week we go, turning little wins into more 5.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Legacy Scrublands podcast, the podcast that takes you out of scrub lows, past plateaus, and into more 5-0s each week. I'm your host, Kyle, and with me is the Spike on the mic, fresh back from Oklahoma. How's it going, Adam?
Very, very fun, but long weekend. So I'm very excited to talk about today.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of competitions, a lot of tournaments that just went down. At least in our neck of the woods, we had the Oklahoma Land Run, which kind of was mentioned before, but just excited to kind of hear and go over that breakdown. Before we jump into all of the different competitions, because we had quite a few to go over, and in particular the Oklahoma Land Run, where we can get Adam's perspective on how his team trios went, how his journey went. Before we do that and we jump into all our spiky meta, I got to jump into the casual question first. So, filthy casual question of the week is, let's just complain about some stuff. What is something that you feel like should be illegal when playing Magic the Gathering? So, like, if something happens in the match, you should be able to call a judge for this. And I'm saying not like, obviously take this as like, oh, if my opponent is like, I don't know, palming cards. Yes, obviously. I'm saying like, what's something that's like not illegal that you want to be like, hey, I'm calling the judge for this?
Good question. And I feel like every Magic player has their own pet peeves of like things that players do that just
absolutely
ticks them off. So I think for me,
right. So what's yours?
Yeah. So I think for me, and I think if you're an older player, you would remember this. It's not done as much today, but it used to be done a lot. And it's the hard flick like of cards. So when they're like shuffling cards between in their hand, which is totally fine to shuffle, to like, you know, keep shuffling your cards. But when they keep snapping it every 3 seconds, where it's like shuffle, 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 snap, shuffle, 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 snap. And it's like my turn, and I'm trying to like think of a complicated line or like thinking strategy, and they're just making that noise. To me, that's like somebody like intentionally, tapping like the table or tapping like with a pen. It's just like constantly there. And if you go back to like old Pro Tours or things like that, players used to do it all the time. And I had people tell me like they intentionally do it to distract the opponent. And I think that's just like an awful, awful way to try to win a game. So I think if somebody intentionally or even unintentionally, like they start making noises, like continuous noises, and like it's distracting you, I think you could get you should be able to get a warning. Now you have to be careful because like I don't want somebody to unintentionally try to do it and they're just like, it's like a small light habit. I don't want them to get in trouble for it, but yeah, I'll be interested in what the audience is, because like I said, I know it's not popular today, but it used to be so bad at
Interesting.
events.
It's kind of like, it is maybe a little sleazy if it's done intentionally. You're just trying to throw your opponent off. Yeah, I kind of agree. I don't like that. And then you just see their cards slightly curled because of how hard they're flipping them. But yeah, that's a good one. I think.
What about you? Yeah.
Man, I think mine are going to be general hygiene. So I had a situation where it was like, it just threw me off, and I had to be, I don't know what the situation was, but dude, I was playing and this guy coughed like just coughed straight into my face.
Oh no.
And I was like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like, can you, hey man, cover your mouth? He's like, oh yeah, sorry, man. And I was like, I'm like, if you're sick, I don't know, just like, don't be here. But also it just was like, so like kind of hygiene, or just like, a little bit of, social graces, like mannerisms of those type of things. Where I'm like, you gotta
see when you said hygiene, I think 90% of the audience is going to think of the smell, which is definitely a concern of this past tournament, which actually wasn't terrible.
Oh,
but
okay.
You can definitely tell, like, BO, that is a very common complaint that TCGs have. I would say Magic's probably the better hygiene. Like, people generally are okay. Man, you go to some other TCGs, it's rough. I've been to a lot of them. There are some rough rooms where you're just like covering your nose walking through it. It's yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like this stink, I want my opponents and the people that I'm sitting next to like take care of yourselves, but then also just the like we're coughing at the table and like I just not covering your mouth or
Or
in
how
your
about when
like
they cough,
elbow,
like, they cough
whatever.
in their hand? They cough in their hand, and then
Yes.
they cut your deck,
Oh,
and you're like, "Oh my
yes, dude.
god."
So gross.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my pet peeve. That and if someone I think like opens up Dark Ritual into or not Doomsday. I was thinking like more Storm. So if someone plays Lion's Eye Diamond and then cracks it and then
Turn
plays
1 still,
Echo,
yep.
yeah, Echo in turn one, I don't even draw a card. That's probably the other thing that I'm gonna call a judge for and just be like, this is bullshit. What are we doing? So
Judge, he's playing an unfair deck. That's
yeah, well, judge what is anyway. So that's my filthy casual complaints. But anyway, so with that out of the way, you kind of mentioned walking into the Oklahoma land run, which so this was at a convention center, which is kind of different from my understanding
Yes.
of what they've done in the years past. Dude, I'm so bummed that I didn't get to go. Walk me through like how big is the venue? Like what's the layout? Lots of vendors, big
Yeah, yeah.
competition. Like what's
So,
the
I'll give a little spiel, so please just stop me whenever you wanna chime in. So, we left Thursday morning, and it's a 5-hour drive, and, shout out to Donald, he drove all the way there. Thank you very much. And we get there, and, like, immediately, there are events on a Thursday night that you can join. So, they're 4 rounds long. It's for both legacy and vintage, and it's just if you go 4-0, you get a playmat with like a number on it, like a numbered playmat, and you also get a buy for the next round. So it was, it's only $10, so a very cheap event to kind of get into, but it gets your blood going a little bit. It gets you excited to play and like test things out. And then also, if you go 4-0, you get a sweet victory. So the first event was vintage, and Donald and Jeff, they both went 4-0 immediately. I was like, that is awesome. Like, you guys are so great. It
wow?
was vintage. It was for vintage.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so they did phenomenal with it vintage. And then like I waited, then it was my turn for legacy while they were still playing vintage. Dude, I got crushed. I lost the first round to Demir, which is like one of the worst matchups for Reanimator. And super nice guy. Like I said, everybody, and I'll say this over and over, everybody there was just the nicest players to go against. Very friendly, great environment. Like, I definitely can't stress that enough of how friendly people are. So that was Thursday night, and then we wanted to get a good night's sleep, so we started fresh for Friday.
Yeah, and you
And
guys
this
didn't
is
stay
yeah.
at the hotel, like, cause isn't it was at like a hotel convention, right? Or is that not? Or did you guys not
so
stay?
so fun
Oh,
story
maybe
about
this
the
is a huge.
hotel.
Yeah, maybe this is a bit of a detour, but let's hear it.
No,
Yeah.
no, this is a good detour. So the week before, I chatted with both my team members, and I was like, "All right, guys, we have a choice. We either can spend like 175 ish, 200 ish dollars for a room, or we do the one that's $80 a night. And the one that's $80 a night is a Super 8. I don't know if the audience has ever been to a Super 8, but if you have, you know that feeling. So us as cheap Magic players, we're like, all right, like, we're just gonna sleep there. So how bad could it be? So we we chose the $80 a night. We get there, dude. The whole place just looks like in shambles. There was the lock was broken on the door. It was the
Oh
size of
my
like a small
gosh.
closet, and we're like, all right, like this is we can survive this. And I'll say it for Jeff. Like, Jeff looks so sad. He's like, this is terrible. These outlets don't work. Like, how are we gonna do it? So that we did it the next night, but the morning after, I went to the front desk. I was like, "Yeah, this isn't working out. Like, half the stuff is not working, and like, can we like get our money back for the next 2 nights, and so we can stay at a nicer hotel?" They were super nice and accommodating, which I greatly appreciate. And then we went to an actual hotel, and it was great, but not the one that was where it was located, which was the
Okay.
Reed
Okay.
Center. It was the next hotel. If you've never been there, there's like 5 hotels literally in walking distance of the conference center. So we just get up, walk over, and you're there. So great environment to play Magic.
And you guys saw all 5 of these hotels before you guys signed. You're like, nah,
Yeah.
none
Well,
of these. Dude.
okay.
Let's go.
Okay, but it was like again, like it was like $200 a night, which is a lot of money to Magic players, right? I could be buying, a dual land for that. Like, come on, come on. So we, yeah. So that day for Friday, we were really excited to play. We started off hot with a round 1 win, and that round 1 was like to the bitter
That's
end.
the team trios, right?
The
Friday
team
is
trios, yeah,
tri-
it was
yeah.
team
Okay,
trios.
cool.
It was Donald was on Modern. He was playing Artifacts. I was in the Legacy playing Reanimator, and then Jeff was on the Legacy seat playing the Raker Shops deck in Vintage. And so I think it was, I forget which one won first, but either Jeff or Donald won and lost, and it was all up to me. I don't know how I was the last one to finish, which is crazy, by the way. And man, it was like he had 3 DRCs, Dragon Chandlers, turn 2 with Days Force in his hand. When I looked at it, I was like, oh
Yikes.
my gosh. And somehow we just pulled it out of our asses and just got there. And like a great first round win. We played tight. It was great. And then it just went so far downhill for the rest of the day. And the reason I say that was because like, and this is where we're getting to the meta. The meta for Legacy is not combo friendly. Either they are playing a fast combo deck. So Doomsday, if you see, as we'll get into, Doomsday was in a lot of places. It won the entire event, and it was very well placed, right? Because the card just came out, and so card came out with Doomsday, very very strong. To counter that, the best deck to beat it is Dimir Tempo, and so well, guess what? Those are like my 2 worst matchups, and just going against it over and over again was a really, really rough time. And so
It was disheartening.
I kind of had that feeling going into it the week prior. Like I think I mentioned in the last week's podcast when like I was doing leagues, it just wasn't going well because everyone had 2 additional Force of Negations in their main deck. If you're playing like a tempo version, like it's so hard to get through. And then you're getting hit with a car turn 1. And so it's just like it's bad on both sides for me. Overall, the meta was actually pretty interesting looking at all the data. So let's get into the data.
So, all right. So before we jump into kind of what the meta looks like, because it does seem kind of crazy, give me the breakdown of the team trios. Again, I'm so bummed that I did not get to go. And next time I'm going to have to plead with people to team up with me so I can. Hey, I'll stay at the Motel 8 next time.
Yeah,
like I'll stay there. But hey, so I'm curious, like how many teams showed up? Like how packed was the Friday event? Was that more or less so than the Legacy and the Vintage Day? I mean, like what was that like?
Yeah, so it was pretty equal throughout of just like the total number of players. Essentially what happened is like I would say the large majority of people that went was for Legacy. And then there was also a small like half of that were like really into Vintage, right? And then like unfortunately or fortunately, like everybody just grabbed a Modern player and they're like, hey, join our team. And so like there was no main Modern event. So that's fine. I think there was 8 rounds, maybe like, oh gosh, 70-ish teams.
Oh,
Maybe
really
not
good.
quote me, but it was a full room, right? It was a pretty
Yeah.
packed room. They said it was the most players they've ever had.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like the TO was very excited of the turnout, and everybody again was just having a really nice time. So yeah, I would definitely recommend they do Teams Trios again.
That's
What's
awesome.
interesting?
Did you hear how like how did that finish? Like what was the top? Do we know how the top performing teams like what they brought? I was trying to find. I was not able to find much. So, and again, it's not necessarily super telling of the meta of how a team event goes, right? Because it's one of those things. Like if I bring Death and Taxes and you guys carry me the entire time, somebody looks and just like, dude, Death and Taxes won this race. So it's not super telling. I'm just kind of curious from my own standpoint
I didn't even see any posts about it. I saw the one for Legacy.
I didn't either.
But I didn't see anything for Team Trios. So yeah, if anybody else can find it, please feel free to share.
Yeah. Okay. Well, either way, man, it sounds like an awesome event, and glad that you guys had a good time, even though it didn't work out for our boys as well as we would like.
Yeah.
Okay, so Do you want to? So we'll bump past Friday and we jump into Saturday, and Saturday is the big legacy day, right? What we had, I think, like what 150, like 150 players, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Which is
Again,
awesome
another
stuff.
full room. It was packed. So great job again. I think they're gonna need a bigger venue next time. It
Yeah,
was busy.
that's crazy. Yeah, this is 176 legacy players. So probably smelling really fresh. But anyway, let's so give me the rundown of what Saturday was like. How did you feel going in after
Sure.
maybe a little bit of a disheartening first Friday, Thursday and Friday? How we
So
feeling? How did it go?
yeah, so what I would say was again, this is going Friday into Saturday. We all agreed that like looking around the room, the blue black X decks were just everywhere. Everybody had Thought Seizes, everybody had Force of Wills, and it's just how you kind of handled the decks. And so leaving that, we're like, okay, if this is the meta, I'm going to shift my sideboard a little bit heavier to beat the brainstorm. So I added more Bowmasters to my
Okay.
sideboard that night. But I will tell you, even on Saturday, like I said, it was just Demir. I went against Demir a whole bunch, and then I also lost against like Doomsday decks. It was just like nonstop. And so, like I said, for me, it was a bummer that I just didn't perform to where I wanted to be, and that's okay. Like I said, it makes me want to improve, try better. I would say I played tightly overall. Like I think like the whole weekend, there was like one time I was like, man, I could have played that a little bit better, a little bit tighter, but overall, like I felt I played tight. And like I said, I'm happy with that. I'm not happy with the deck choice. If I would, if Carr was never there, I think it would have been fine. But just with the Carr, everybody's like ready for these combo decks. It just was not the correct deck choice. And what's funny is I was looking at all the top tables. There was no reanimator. There was nothing at the top tables because it just got smashed by all those two decks. So, wasn't our time, but hey, that's okay. There's always EW. And I'm going to be trying new decks. So Doomsday, I bought my LED, so get ready. We are trying it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess is this you can't beat them, join them type of
Exactly.
Okay.
I got 30 days. What 30 days left before the next BNR? So
Do you have cars too?
I can borrow. I'm borrowing those things. I'm not spending $100 for going abandoned a month.
Yeah, that's fair. So, all right, okay. Well, let's take a look. I want to go into the top 8, but I also want to go a little bit past the top 8 and just kind of look at a couple of decks as a whole, just because even the top, I would say like 24, 32 decks, those are all really strong showings from these pilots. So even if they're not making the top 8 cut, that could just be like a loss here, and that loss could just be like I ran into a bad matchup, or maybe I ran into the mirror, and so we see one kind of get bumped while the other one kind of drops down a little bit. So to start off, we've got Doomsday Carr, which you kind of mentioned before, won the entire thing. We then have Azorius Tempo, which I find to be a very interesting deck because realistically, it seems like it is specifically assembled just to beat this meta. Like it's specifically built to beat up on cars.
Yeah,
when exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Stifle effects, you're gonna and Force of Wills, Force negation. Yeah, you're beating Carr.
Consign to try to like counter the Carr on one, like with 1 mana. Yeah. So like it's specifically designed to like to beat up on those and just consigning storm triggers, consign whatever. So yeah, it seems very built for this meta. The next one that I thought was kind of interesting is the Golgari. It is a Hogak small blocks list, which is really cool. I find that to be a very interesting deck. I love that deck. Like it seems really cool. I just cannot afford LEDs, so I will be passing on that one. We've got a Beanstalk deck, which I also find to be kind of crazy. This is like a Scion of Draco Leyline of the Guild Pact. Like I haven't seen much of that in a while, but that came in 4th. Selesnya lands, we've got the Allurin combo, we've got Mystic Forge, and then we've got our beloved Death and Taxes, which is pretty awesome, and it makes sense. If we're seeing a lot of the tempo decks that this would kind of prey on that. So that's our top 8. Again, really just one combo and one deck one Doomsday combo, and one deck that's really built to prey on those. Those made it in the top 1 and 2. And then an Alluring combo, Forge combo, and then the rest of it seems pretty fair, which is kind of cool.
I will say I was surprised to see again as I was going around the top tables, the Alluring combo was everywhere. I was
Oh,
very
really?
shocked. Yeah, in a good way. I was like, it's an interesting deck, and it was doing very well. And again, if you never have played the Alluring combo, they tried to cast a 4 mana enchantment, and the enchantment's called Alluring, and it's any player may play a creature card with total cast cost 3 or less whenever he or she could play an instant card and without paying its casting cost. So you attach that to the I'm gonna butcher the name, Asarak, the Archlich, and it's an infinite combo, and you just kill your opponent by going through the dungeon over and over and over again. And so it's a very fast combo deck with Force of Will, which is kind of where again similar kind of idea to Doomsday, right? It's like you go very quick with Force backup, and that's seemed to be doing well, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Like kind of attacking at a different angle of just being able to do something really quickly. So even if you do potentially get card pretty quickly, you still have the ability to like, okay, I just need crack pedal into this show and tell my learn. You know what I mean? Like if you just
Right.
have the pieces, you can just kind of go off. But
Well,
so there's definitely an interesting. Okay, what's up?
yeah, I know. So what I would say too is like you'll notice that as Veil of Summers. I think Veil of Summer this weekend
Mm,
was so good. Like I said, everybody was playing blue and black. So if you had that card, you're probably doing pretty well.
yeah, it. I mean, looking and again, I wanted to jump past the top 8. Like, obviously, if you're top 8ing an event like this, shout out to you guys. That's super impressive.
Yes, they did
Um,
awesome.
yeah, but I do think like even to make it the top 32, like I said, you still have some really impressive finishes, and it could just be like one matchup that potentially didn't break your way.
Right.
So I wanted to go through and see a couple of these. I am seeing, so I'm just kind of checking MTG Goldfish on this competition, but uh, there is quite a bit of Doomsday. The Sultai Doomsday, we see
It's everywhere.
yeah, 15, 19, 22, 23. Like it is kind of just bombarding. There are some Allurn, and then I do see a splash of some tempo as well. Yeah, it does seem kind of like some Izzet Delver as well. So it does seem like a lot of the same suspects. And then I also see a little bit more of the Golgari kind of like aggro, Moon Shadow, Stompy, get Hogak out type of decks too, which
Right.
I think is kind of surprising. The thing with those I think is kind of neat is just the idea of, and I saw somebody make this post where it's like, if a lot of people are coming to bring, cars, and everybody thinks that all these cars are going to show up, and we're bringing everything. So like we're bringing everything that's going to beat the car, right? So that's the blue black tempo, and then you have these Golgari players that are just like feasting on
the
a grindy
Dimir,
matchup.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's such a weird rock paper scissors, at least in the land run meta. But so it's kind of interesting, and I want to talk more like once we wrap up a couple of these different tournament breakdowns. So this was like the Midwest, really big competition here in the United States. That kind of tells a story, and I want to jump into 2 other ones that tell potentially the same story, maybe slightly different story. But before we do that, continue into your trip for Sunday. So Sunday, you said was a pretty long day. Tell us a little bit about Sunday, just to give a quick shout out to a friend of ours.
Yeah, so I'll start out with it was vintage. I do not have a vintage deck. I think next year I will try to because it's proxy friendly for reserved cards. So there's still a lot of cards I would need to purchase, which is fine. And I think that's a great idea for them. So I will want to do it next year because it looked a lot of fun. So me personally, I actually was like, screw it. I had enough of Reanimator for the weekend. I know it's hard to hear, but I did. And I went to play poker. Yes, I went to go play poker. And then as I was playing, all I saw on my text message was Jeff and Donald and went 1-0, 1-0. Awesome, guys. 2-0, 2-0. All right. And they kept going up 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. I was like, Jesus, you guys are like, you're insane. And so I think they then both lost the 6th round. So they were like both 5-1. and then they won the 7th round. So they went 6-1, and then they drew into the top 8. So for Vintage, Donald and Jeff, congratulations for getting the top 8. You guys did awesome work, and it was really fun to kind of see you succeed. And let me get into the top 8, because I think the top 8 was very interesting for Vintage. So if you don't know anything about Vintage, which I am not an expert on, I don't claim to be an expert, but a lot of it was shops, which is like a very, if you know Jeff, it's like a artifact deck, big mana, right? You're playing these artifacts that have a car and you run over people. And then there's decks to beat that. So there's the bug deck. So blue, green, black. And they have a lot of things that like stop artifacts from turning on. So you saw that a lot in the top 8. So I'll start with Donald first. So Donald was playing a Breach deck, so Luris Breach, and he unfortunately lost the top 8 in the quarterfinals, which again, he did awesome. It just wasn't, the best matchup there. Then Jeff, in a very close, he was a close game 1, and then game 2 and 3, he won. So he, did top 8. Quarters he did well, and then he went on camera. So in the semifinals, he went against one of his worst matchups, which is Bug, right? Because they are bringing in cards to say you are not allowed to tap your artifacts. Oof, Collector Oof. And again, super nice opponents, and you can kind of just tell like there's a lot of adrenaline pumping through Jeff and the other player. Like everybody's getting very excited, and so Jeff had a nail biter and won like with it, very close through the car. He had a Collector's Oof, and he ran over them with a car, and it was so fun to watch. And he did phenomenal. Then it was the last one, and the guy's name, if you know anything about Vintage, he was at the last, I think he said 7 finals of the of this event, of the Oklahoma event. So he's a very, very well-known Vintage player. And again, he was in the finals of the past 7. Absolutely insane player. It was a bad matchup for Jeff because he was playing Bug. And we're like, all right, just try your best. You got this. Take a break, get a drink, and just, calm your nerves, because he was very nervous. The, final start, cameras on him, and he got oofed game 1. I was like, all right, that's fine. He lost game 1. Game 2 and 3, again, were just like nail biters. He was playing around all of the oofs and just, trying to run over his opponent. And oh my gosh, just every point mattered. Jeff was doing insane things, and Jeff is probably going to be the reason why that deck gets banned, and it was the Raker Shops list. And so, I just want to say congratulations to Jeff. He pulled it out, did a great victory, and it was really cool to see the whole community like clapping for him and cheering him on. And I'm just very proud of him for that.
Yeah, man. Congratulations to Jeff, just local boy. Street kid out of nowhere taking down the tournament. So yeah, and then Donald, congrats to you as well, man, for just crushing it in Vintage. And just,
it's funny you said
he's such
crushing.
a good player in general. So
yeah, it's funny you said crushing, because now the new nickname that I guess the Vintage players gave him is Crushin' Kramer, because that's his last name. So they're like, oh, Crushin' Kramer's here. He's ready to take us on now. Like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he has a new nickname now in the Vintage community.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that Oklahoma was such a fun trip in general. Again, I'm very bummed that I was not able to make it out. I'll definitely be doing my best to get there next time. But
absolutely,
man, that's
I will
that
say
sounds really awesome.
The night went longer because one thing was kind of funny. We did not leave that event until like 9:30. And if you don't know, Oklahoma to Kansas is about a 5-hour drive. That was a long night that we had to truck through. And, but it was very fun to see Jeff, all excited. And then he passed out for a bit because he was so adrenaline, rushed out. He just, died out at the end. So no, it was very
absolutely. Fun. I was going to say, like, it's a long day already, but let alone playing Magic for 9 hours. Just don't let that man behind the wheel of a car for sure. After playing
exactly. It was more than 9 hours. I told you it was 11 hours of playing Magic nonstop.
Jeez. Yeah. That is
and he did it.
But
he did it.
Awesome. Well, congrats, fellas. That's really cool. But all right, well, that was Oklahoma. So let's cover our next legacy tournament, and this is the Eternal Mania 2, which was in Belgium. So this is the European kind of meta, maybe is a little bit of a preview of what the EW meta looks like. This also very big, 213 players showing up, which is really interesting. And then again, we'll kind of jump into the top 8. And this is, I'm getting this off of MTG Top 8. So if I'm off with anything, just, let us know where to find the correct list. But what I'm seeing is Cradle Control taking it down, then Hogak, Boros Energy, then we've got a Fantastic Car combo, Blue Artifacts, a Golgari Moon Shadow, like another Hogak deck, Stoneblade, and then Blue White X Control. So just to like outside looking in, this is such a crazy meta. And I did kind of like poke around online a little bit, and a lot of, I think, European players were thinking a similar thing of like everybody brought stuff to beat up on control, and so everybody else is just eating good. So you have like the Boros aggro, like the energy decks were doing pretty well. Your green black decks, mid-range type of control decks doing really well, just feasting on tempo decks, I guess, potentially everywhere. So to me, I thought that was really interesting, especially with only one car. And this to me looks, so the car deck that we have here is a Beseech the Mirror actual storm deck. So it runs Tendrils of Agony as the side. I'd actually, honestly, I don't know which is the A plan and which is the B plan. They both suck. I don't want to get rid of that car or get tendrilled. So on turn 1. So either way, this deck is the worst. But interesting. I don't know. I find it interesting that there's only one really major combo deck here. And then as I'm scrolling through the 16, I see one other car. One Learn that you mentioned, and then again it's so Learn, Blue Artifacts, Energy Aggro, Cephalid Breakfast, another Hogak deck, 2 of our Reanimator decks, so shout out to your boys.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic Car Storm. This is the Fantastic Car Tron deck. So I don't know, man. Like this is such a weird meta to me, because like I don't know. I think like this is maybe a story. What's your take on seeing some of these Reanimator decks show up in the top 16? Like, do you think they just feasted on a lot of these fair decks that people brought? Like, if they're running into energy, are you just chewing those up all day? Like, what's your take?
So yeah, so what I would say is if I saw this meta, I would be so excited to be a Reanimator player, right? You have a very good Cradle Control, good against Hogak, good against aggro, the Boros aggro. And like that's the kind of decks that I generally prey on. And so that's why I think the Reanimator decks here is, as high as they are, which is again great. I want to see that. I am surprised of the decks, in the top 16. I really am. Like I said, there's only one card deck, if I saw that correctly. And there is no blue black tempo deck in the top 16. Which is just so weird because it was everywhere. Even in the top, is it 32?
Yeah, it's not in the top 32 either.
And
it's nowhere. So I don't know. Like I said, man, I don't know if it's just that these decks are just feasting on people bringing tempo decks, or just they left them all at home. To me, it doesn't even look like the car is that crazy, because like if you were to change the name from Fantastic Car and just put Storm and then Tron and then Doomsday, like if I was to see a sprinkling of those, I'd think nothing of this tournament at all. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, okay, like very diverse. Like honestly, some of it is interesting to see. Like I think Cradle and Hogak are typically a little bit underrepresented, a little bit quieter deck. So it's kind of cool to see them do well in both this and the Oklahoma event, like to see. So to me, I find that to be kind of interesting. I don't know. We can maybe talk about like what we think of the meta as a whole after we cover one more competition. But to me, this looks so strange. At least like if I had to prep a sideboard, it wouldn't have been for these decks.
Exactly. And maybe that's why they did well, right? Like if nobody's expecting Cradle Control, you're going to do better. And they did. But yeah, I agree. Let's do the one last tournament, and then I want to talk about the thoughts of the car. But go ahead.
Sounds great. Yeah, so this last tournament is the DMV. So this is the DC, Maryland, Virginia, that type of
CubeCon.
area. So yes, CubeCon. So kind of East Coast competition. This is still pretty big, a little bit smaller, I think, than some of the other ones. Just over 70 players, which I would say is still a decent showing in the legacy scene. This one was taken down by, I think, a very prominent player, Harry Hackett, who's been known for this. Is it kind of like painter combo with the surveillance scam deck? So it sounds like he's been doing pretty well for a little bit. So if you are tuned into the Small Talk podcast, I know he was just on their episode talking about how confident he was in this deck, and man, he put his money where his mouth is because he just took down this competition. So past the surveillance welder cam combo deck, we've got a stifle knot, which is cool. I love that.
Awesome.
That's pretty.
It's
That's
awesome
pretty
to
awesome.
see. But you know why
Yeah.
Stifle Knot's good, right? It's like
I mean, yeah, you're
there's 8 cards
stifling
that say-
triggers. Yeah,
There's so many. I'm gonna stifle that effect for your car, and
yeah.
that's their whole goal.
No, and tons of pointed removal as well, and just yeah, taking some Thoughtseize as well. I think is probably pretty good if you're expecting a lot of those combo decks to just rip, the Dark Ritual out of their hand or rip like one of the big combo pieces. So continuing down, we've got a Reanimator, which is pretty sweet. So Reanimator's doing well there. Another one of those scam decks, or sorry, not scam, but the Welder Cam combo deck. We've got the Blue-White Tempo, which I think this is designed just to beat up on this meta. Then we've got Dimir, and then this is Dimir, but it's playing the Fantastic Car, so forget these guys. And then
It's like Demir Car. I think that's what they're calling it.
Yeah. So then we've got some Painter, and then we've got another like Stifle Blue-White type of deck. So to me, this I feel like is a little bit more of what I would expect. Maybe not quite as much of there's a ton of these Painter like artifact decks, which I didn't know, I guess, how like strong their matchup was against card decks, or like how good they were in a Doomsday.
Yeah.
But if it seems, I mean, based on the 3 in the top 8, they seem to be doing pretty well. So I don't know. What's your take on that?
No, I mean, I also saw this deck a lot. Maybe it was because they went to time just a little bit more frequently. Like you kind of saw that at the end of the rounds, and you can do some crazy stuff with this deck. So again, very fun to see. It's a very strong combo. I was even messaging my buddy Rami. I was like, dude, you got to get on this deck and like play it because this is your style. Like you do very well. So I definitely recommend this deck if you enjoy that artifact style combo decks.
Yeah, it maybe seems potentially hard to pilot in a longer competition. Just a lot of game actions, a lot of triggers to kind of catch. But if you know it inside and out, man, like these guys are doing really well. And again, if you are interested in this deck, I think the Legacy Small Talk podcast, I think they just had Harry on, and so might be a good spot to try to listen in and I don't know, level up some of your surveillance cam plays. All right. Well, I don't want to jump too much deeper than the top 8 for this one, because to me, past it just looks like a lot of tempo and a lot of energy, and I don't know, nothing too crazy stands out to me. So unless there's anything that you want to cover, do you just want to? Are we cool to talk about this meta as a whole?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. So. All right. Well, based on everything that we're looking at, we checked out 3 kind of major competitions, and I think the discussion leading into this weekend was just Car's going to get banned. It's a problem. Deck's too good. It's broken. What is your take? Is Car out of line based on the stuff that we're looking at? Do you think that this is all like very meta warping because like the Car exists, you've got all of these different things doing well, or do you think it's, I don't know, good to have a boogeyman that allows decks like Cradle Control to feast? And I don't know, what's your take? Like, is Car out of line? Is that a problem?
Right.
In the meta?
So I think if the BNR was, this Monday or like even next week, I don't think there's enough evidence to show that Car is too broken, even like too warping. There are decks that can beat it, right? So the decks like Stifle Knot, they are coming into popularity because they will just destroy it, which is good because we haven't seen Stifle Knot since last EW, like over a year ago. So it's really cool to see that deck come back. And what I think too is that what people are doing, and I suggest this if you do like Car, is people have Car game 1, and then like everybody's like, all right, here's my 4 mind break traps, and then they just take the Car out, game 2 and 3, and then like they're as we said, the transformative sideboard, right? People do that a lot with the Car because it's just not as powerful game 2 and 3. So a lot of people were talking about this on the weekend, and like, is it going to get banned? I don't think if it is, again, if it was today, it would not get banned. I really don't think it would be banned yet, just by like how diverse the meta seems to be. Even though we saw a lot of Dimir tempo in Oklahoma, but if you look at these other areas, like Dimir wasn't that popular. Even Doomsday at these other tournaments weren't as popular. So I'd give it, we'll see when it gets closer to the BNR if it's too much. It's just not fun for some people to just get run over. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm not confident yet that it's as busted as everyone says it is.
Yeah, I definitely, I think it's an issue. I don't know that it's, I don't know how to say this. Like, I definitely think it's an issue. I do think that because it can go into so many different homes, like, I think that is kind of a frustrating piece where it's like, you have to worry about these decks and they're kind of just normal strategy, but they can pivot, I would say, too easily into this other plan. So, and yes, you have some pieces that can hate on that. But I think then you're just kind of like, you've got a couple of decks that just prey on this meta, but everybody else kind of suffers for it. It's kind of how I feel. Right?
Like, I mean, me personally, I wish it was banned. I would love if the Car gets banned. I'm just thinking holistically of like, as a meta as a whole, it's definitely beatable. And that's where like Nadu, like if you look in the back, not like why Nadu got banned was it was a very, very, very powerful card. And it was just such a pain in the butt to go against. But like going against the Car, like going against Car, you die in turn 2. And you're like, all right, that was cool. But it still was a good deck. So like I said, we'll see. I'll be very interested in August.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I still think Car's past the line. I think the fact that it's in so many places potentially speaks to the problem of that. But at the same point, like, Legacy is full of powerful things. So
right.
I sometimes question, like, I don't know what my threshold is for what is too powerful. So I'm kind of glad that I don't have to make this decision and just like leave that to somebody, like who makes way more money and is way
Wizards
smarter
of the
than me.
Coast,
like,
baby. Oh yeah.
Let's leave it to them. I don't know. I guess I don't know, because I just think there's plenty of things that I don't like playing against that I find miserable, and I don't want to necessarily just be like, yeah, this sucks, I don't like it, get it out of here. You know what I mean? Right. I don't want to be just that kind of like I dislike Storm. Tendrils of Agony would be out of here, yesterday, but it's I guess well within its win rates, play rates, so like I think Car could potentially be in that as well.
See, what I would say is if you're looking at all the metas, do you know what's at the top of a lot of these decks? Top 8s? It's one card. I've been complaining about it for almost a year now.
Hogak.
Tamio. Hogak.
Yes.
No, Tamio's like Dimir, like it's in Dimir. It's in the Azorius Tempo. It's in a lot of these blue decks, and it's just like, it's so hard to beat that card. And like, I know we talked about it, like, 2 weeks ago now? You're like, it's probably not that bad. It was everywhere. And man, was that card not fun to go against. So I'd rather have that card banned over Car, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could jump, like, that honestly sounds like a whole episode of just us debating. I think Tamio is very good. I think, is it past the line? Probably. Did it help me get a 4-1 recently? So I'm not going to complain about it. Yeah, absolutely. I was telling you about it. Like, I was more frustrated with Car because I had Tamio on my side and I went 4-1. My only loss was to a turn 1 Car when I got run over.
Yep.
And then they beat me with a turn 1 with the One Ring, which I like tried to consign, and they had defense for it. So I was like, God damn it.
Oh my
This
gosh.
is, yeah, it was brutal. So I was like,
Yeah.
well, it ruined my day, ruined my 5-0. So yeah, the car needs to go. I completely agree now. So anyway, man, so let's talk. Is there anything from the meta that you want to get into, or do you?
Yeah, like I said, I just think the meta is it's very fast combo versus Demir, and that's like the
Mhm.
biggest thing. And then you see at these other events, it's what is beating up on Demir is the like the rock paper scissors, and so that's where I think the meta is like okay right now. Again, not my favorite, not for me, but
Yeah,
as a whole, I get why people are like it's not that bad.
right. Because it almost feels like that's kind of how it should go, right? Is that
Right.
like you've got the broken deck, you've got the tempo that keeps them in check, and then you've got the fair deck that keeps the tempo in check.
Yep.
So that's that cycle. It's hard. I don't know. With that being kind of how you typically want things to be, it's kind of a weird thing to say that we don't like the meta, but it's still, I don't know, something about it just feel a little off. I kind of agree with you.
Yeah. I
But
mean, even like I'm just looking at the whole meta, like there's a summary for the CubeCon, and they said like
oh yeah,
there's 8 for blue artifacts, 5 for Delver, 5 for Doomsday, 5 or 4 for Car, and then 3 for Reanimator. Like that's a fairly diverse, and it keeps going down to like twos
yeah,
and ones. Like there's a
yep.
lot of different decks out there that you can play, and I think that's a sign of like a relatively healthy format. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, so then I want to ask this real quick then. So we have all access, which actually unfortunately ends tomorrow. So I'm gonna have to jam a little bit tonight just to kind of. So if you're not familiar, all access is on MTGO. It's I think like $20, but you get to basically have every card in your collection for 2 weeks, and so you just get to try whatever deck you want, and you have every card available. So if that was a real thing, Adam, what would you be trying to bring? Like if you had all access that you could have taken to Oklahoma, what is a deck that you think that you would want to run? Or like, I mean, I know that you're a Doomsday
yeah.
like
I was about to say
lover through
I
and
got
through.
the
Like,
coaching for Doomsday, and I think I would need a ton of practice because I know I'm not good at it. But I think
yeah,
Doomsday, like they call it Vroomsday, right? Like the car
yes,
Doomsday is probably like pound for pound the best deck is probably up there. And then also Demir. I probably played like the Demir Tempo. Like those two decks are just again pound for pound probably the strongest. So
okay,
it would probably be one of those two. I think the other ones are fine, but you're gonna lose a lot of matches just to random BS decks, and you have to deal with it. So probably one of those two. I would go with. How about you?
yeah. I think. I mean, I think I have two answers. I think my fun answer is going to be what's something that is expensive that I can't afford that ended up doing well. Which again, I like the loan pox. Like, I think that's a really cool grindy thing where it's like, continue, like you get to Wasteland, you get to potentially bring a fast clock in a Hogak, or if the game goes long, you get to kind of like reuse your Wastelands, reuse your Urza's sagas to try to like make a battlefield full of constructs. I think that's kind of cool, and I
Yeah,
think that if you know how to play that into some other matchups, I think it can do really well, which is kind of what we saw a little bit. I don't think that I'm quite there. Yeah, I think like you probably got to be the top 5% of Pox players. I'm probably the top 6%. So
yeah. You're right there.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not quite there yet. Realistically, I think I probably would have picked the tempo deck. I think anytime that realistically, I think things like force of will, and then also a lot of consigns and ways of attacking the combo decks, I think are great. And then you also have ability to beat up on some of the other tempo decks. So like you feast on Izzet Delver. So if anybody's coming in trying to go a little faster, your Barrowglyphs just kind of like just
Yeah,
live so well, right? Like they just can't really keep up with you gaining 6 life, attacking, getting more creatures, and like on top of being able to force days push their threats as well. So I would probably end up going that way if I was, very like trying to spike the competition. But I'm not an amazing Demir player either. I'm probably in the top 7% there.
I love that.
Thanks, man. Well, so that's all I got, man. Anything before we wrap?
I don't know. Next step is for Eternal Weekend, so let's practice, baby.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us in the Scrublands. We will catch you all next week.
Peace.
I'm taking you out of the scrubberos, past the plateaus.